And where would you store the gold? Peanut butter jars?
Dude,
That's the OG way.
under my bed.
With
So-
a couple guns on either side, probably too.
A machete.
Really?
A machete and like the side of my bed, and I had the gold bars under my mattress usually, just in case. It was really stupid. Like, it's like pick a better spot. And we are back in the Crash Labs today with Mr. Kelly Malcolm, CJ Kim, and Matthew Wilson. Welcome, Kelly. Welcome back.
Thanks so much. Super happy to be here, as always, or the third time.
Kelly flew in from Nevada last night.
2:30 a.m., brother. Here I am.
Here you are, ready for action.
I'm in.
And you're off tomorrow too. You're gone again.
I'm adventuring tonight as well, yeah.
Sweet. So, well, very, very nice to have you. So what's happening in Mr. Kelly Malcolm's world these days?
So the biggest one is one you guys always talk about, thanks so much, and CJ's favorite pick of 2024, Borealis Mining. So I built this company. You guys, I'm sure your listeners know, are big supporters. Thank you so much. Working on going public in the very near term. We've raised like $17 million. We have a permitted producing gold mine in Nevada. We've got some of the best drill holes I've ever seen in Nevada. And that's going to be my job for the next long time, is telling that story. And I'm really, really excited to do so.
Sweet. When do you kick off the drilling again? I guess you have to wait till you're public.
No. So we started drilling as a private company in November of last year.
Mm-hmm.
We paused that about a month ago. We've got an RC drill coming July 8th. Okay. So we've been actively pushing the company along in the private phase. And the fun thing about that is we'll have a bunch of news to come out. Like, we're not going to have that news gap that a lot of new companies have. We'll have a lot of pent up stuff that's sitting at the lab and waiting to be processed or waiting for results. So we should have some really fun stuff to come soon.
Very, very exciting. Well, we'll all stay tuned for Kelly Malcolm's Borealis. Let's
coming.
go. The go public that the 2 weeks that is more like
2 weeks.
a year.
The 2 weeks, every 2 weeks from October.
2 weeks.
onwards.
Yeah.
It's been a very slow process.
2 weeks, bro.
Good.
Don't worry.
She's coming.
2 weeks.
So, Maddie, we heard the planes go by. You're in a window. What's going on out there?
Yeah, it's not as hot as I hear as it is in Toronto right now, but yeah, we're sitting outside. The seaplanes take off, go over to the Gulf Islands. Pretty nice here in Vancouver right now. But yeah, it's pretty
Shit
crap out
market
there right now.
It's a shit market.
Market-wise, it's pretty shit again.
It shouldn't be, but it is. And I don't even know if that's a summer doldrums thing. I think it's just general blasé across the board. For no reason.
Yeah, the hard part, man, is we were saying this earlier a couple weeks ago or months ago when everything started running a little bit, right? And it's just the inconsistencies in our market, right? Like the lack of liquidity, the lack of uptake. It just makes it very hard, right? It's like you just don't get that consistent run. Like when we talk about bull runs in the US with tech, you talk about like 10 years. We're like 10 hours here. So it's like everyone's so excited for one day and then it just goes away. So you really need that long-term conviction because, man, every time our portfolio goes up and down, which it sure does, I always wonder, like, man, did we play this wrong? Like, should we have sold? Like, it was bullish, but if you try and play that way, right? Like if you sell, let's take the Amexes or the Southern Cross. Southern Cross is off for like $1 in like a week.
Dude, Snowline
Right.
Gold just put out 7.5
Snowline,
million
7.5 million
and
ounces.
it's down on that.
Well, that was going to be my big. I
Crazy.
noticed that, and I was like, shit. Well, no, at first they were hanging in there.
Mhm.
I'm like, okay, they're hanging in. I'm like, good, and then
It's a huge-
What is it right now? It is
I did not expect it to be that big. I thought it was kind of
huge.
4
very
to 5. That I'm sure that exceeded everyone's expectations, except for some of the analysts that had the big targets out there. But they're always projecting into the future, right? They're not predicting what they have right now. They're usually projecting life of
That's a first resource.
project. It's amazing.
It's
Insane.
the biggest one I've ever seen.
Yeah, well,
Huge.
but you know what's interesting about that though is given like the grade of it, the grade wasn't exceptional
Mhm.
for that size.
So
But-
I think 1.4 or something. But
Yeah.
if you did you look at the way they built it out?
yeah,
So they presented the initial few years with like a point. It's a decimal place strip ratio.
Mhm.
2.5 grams or so gold in that initial first little bit. Like that's a screamer.
That's insane. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, I think the point I was going to make on it is that like with those types of projects, given where it is and the lack of access, because I mean, let's face it, it doesn't
It's the
have
Yukon,
it's
middle
in
of
the
nowhere,
fucking
yeah.
middle of nowhere,
Mhm.
right? You do have to have a big resource. You have to have those years mapped out. You have to have that size defined, in order to justify the capex, the development of that area in general. Like it has to be of critical mass for that. It
Well,
can't
same
just
kind
be
of
like
you're throwing through the mill the same kind of rock as you would at like Cote, right? I mean, you're dealing with Malarctic size, detour size. Like this is now the grade here is 50% higher.
50% higher, exactly.
Yeah, so you might be able, but like that's really what you're still doing. That's at least where my head went. I'm like, you're dealing with big amounts of dirt moving.
Mhm.
but
and,
also in the
it's
middle
a
of
lot-
nowhere.
That's what I was going to say. It's a lot different than like I'm in Val d'Or.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so it'll be really interesting to follow this as a case study. And I mean, it's always really good for the space. Then you and I were chatting about like sports as an analog for like fantasy sports as an analog, or like the way sports works and the way venture stocks work. It's kind of like getting a big contract for like a star player. So Snowline's like a star in the space, and it's like, okay, there's like a re-rating of $1 per ounce value. You're like, okay, that's what the best high cost, right? Like, but high ounce bulk tonnage project is worth now.
Right now, yeah.
Like
exactly.
it's setting the stage. It's like, okay, so this is what it's worth. It's kind of like what Newfound did for the super high grade orogenic space. And you're like, okay, great. So I've got the Amexes of the world and the Southern Cross and the Newfound. It's like, all right, I kind of understand now where we're playing. So when you see new discoveries pop up, and I've had a couple conversations lately of like, what's this worth? What's this new deal worth, right? And you're like, well, if you're trying to get to that, if like your end goal is getting to Amex or Newfound or Snowline, right? It's like, well, you can't really be if you're not projecting that value as what you're looking for, then you're kind of off right now. So it's at least nice to see that. And but in this crap market, and I would have thought 7.5 million ounces would be worth
A lot.
more. Truthfully, that's a lot. That's a big first resource, but but
Well,
I guess
literally, I was speaking about that when I was at a conference. I was just talking about it in Spain not too long ago, promoting Borealis, and that was a question: is like, this is a big market cap. Like, what is the rationale behind that? And they came out with 7.5 million ounce, and I was like, there, it was
That's
just
it.
rationalized, yeah,
yeah,
very,
done.
very well,
That
yeah,
filled some value there, right? So
100%. So yeah, amazing that they did that on a maiden resource with very little drilling too, like 30,000 meters or something.
yeah,
Yeah, it just speaks to like the power of like big bulk tonnage, like diffuse, porphyry, things, right?
can't
like
miss, yeah.
you can't, and where you can take massive step outs and just like,
yeah.
it's
And that one's
all
so
good.
crazy too, because like from surface down to however deep they drill, it's like the most homogeneous drill core. It's like everything is the exact same. Every meter interval is like the same as the last one. It's a very interesting project. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
which allows you to step out like huge and be able to like spend less meters to define it, which is always a nice
He
thing.
did a super cool presentation, actually super boring, but really amazing presentation at Beaver Creek, I think it was, where he just put up on his slides, he put up like 4 different holes from each core box all the way through, and he flipped through for like 6 minutes. Core box, and it was 2 grams, 1.8 grams, 3.2 grams.
Oh, I saw that
for thousands of meters. And I was like,
That's cool.
that's such a cool
That's cool.
presentation. And you just present how continuous it is with visuals in front of everyone, and just and again and again and again. And I was very impressed with that.
Would you rather have 3 million ounces? This is totally in the vacuum question. You'd rather have 3 million ounces at 10 plus grams, or 8 million ounces at 1.5 grams?
3 million ounces, 10 plus grams, beyond a shadow of a doubt.
Depends what you're doing, like what you're. it's a real thing. So look at Detour Lake, for example. So that was a monster buyout, which resulted in KL being bought out. So Kirkland Lake, Macassa plus Fosterville, there's 3 million ounces at 30 grams, right? The reason that Agnico actually bought KL in the end, I think, was the Detour asset, and just that huge mass of never-ending, easy-ish to mine gold. That said, I worked there, and it was a slog. Like, that thing went up When I first started there, it was $2, went up to $30, back to $3, CEO gone, up to $10, back to $2, new management team, and then eventually it was sold for $20.
And that's why I would prefer the 10 grams because it's like it went through like fucking 4 management teams and like almost died like 6 times on the fucking on the hospital bed before it gets taken. Like, yeah,
I don't disagree with you, but in terms of the long life, like big.
Oh, 100%.
But I'm a high grade guy too. I love high grade gold, obviously.
For me, it's just like you can move less rock and make more profit. And so
exactly,
why are we rewarding, more expensive, like more moving parts and things to go wrong? Way more rock needs to be moved and less profit is made ultimately.
You're a student of Eric's Sprott. Or Eric Sprott's a student of
Eric's right, bro. Eric's right.
But no, that's 100%. That's the mantra, and it does make sense. Of course, if you could have a pit, especially a pit of 10 grams per ton.
Oh, there's no dismissing that. Yeah,
without question.
Yeah,
like Sabina, just what a beautiful.
Sabina's crazy.
Beautiful
that thing is
project.
Freaking crazy.
6 grams open pit. It was always the best project I'd seen for years.
Yeah, Frutal Norte and that are kind of like the best ones.
Exactly,
really.
And just in weird places, both of them.
Yeah,
I think Sabina back in the day was like $2,000 a meter to drill.
Probably more nowadays, man.
That's what I mean. Back in the day, pre-inflation.
I'm sure their cash costs are wild, but who like per ounce it's wild, but
yeah,
or per ton it'd be wild, but per ounce who cares? Because it's 6 grams open pit. It's a beautiful.
Oh yeah,
beautiful project.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I don't know though. Like, then you have to factor in, like, to your point, Matt. Like, which one would you rather own? And it's like, well, I don't know. I mean, as a shareholder too. I mean, look at the miracle that just happened with Snowline too, vis-a-vis one of the things that comes with the low grade sort of bulk tonnage things. I mean, this is going to be. It's not always true, but often true. Is that they're quite a bit more homogenous. They're quite a bit more these types of environments are like that, and they hang together. And you can step out big, and you can get 30,000 meters of drilling in, even though that's equivalent of like
same thing. It were 25,000 meters, 4 million ounces. Crazy.
I mean, 30,000 meters there is like 100,000 meters anywhere else. But yeah, it's in terms of like cost. But
I think it also depends on when you're investing.
Right.
It doesn't really matter pre-discovery. Like discovery's discovery, and then you're fighting over what happens on the tail end of that exciting. And it's like it's kind of all the same, isn't it?
Well, is it though? But Siege, that's the point, right? That's why that's where I was diving into. It's like the recent hot topic of the day was yesterday or the day before was ramp. Mm-hmm. Right, so ramps out. They're 15 million, 16 million, 17 million market cap, 7.5 meters.
20 million probably right now by the time.
Whatever it is, by the time you
is
see
it running
this,
right now still?
Yeah, it's
Jordan.
It was running today at 56 cents. I think it went to.
Wow. I talked to him twice today.
I talked to him just before. I didn't talk to him, but I talked to him.
So as of filming this, it's 53, right? So it's 32 million out. So okay. So $17 million company, 7.5 meters of 70 whatever grams is nuts, right? We all know that's crazy, right? So that is on the track to, okay, so you're diluting it out, et cetera, et cetera. So you're on the track to that higher grade story. But then can you hit it again? Would you rather have that than 250 meters of 2 grams?
Well, to me, they weren't.
Meters of 2 grams? I don't know.
To me, they weren't exploring for it. So they were looking for base metal stuff, which was cool. Then it was like countertop sort of granite or slash, peroxenite, weird, nicey, whatever geology, and it's intrusive. The oddity of it, or it's igneous. The oddity of it is that when you hit like 7.5 meters of bonanza values like that, and if you looked, it was like oddly sampled, and Kelly's got a lot of color on this, but. So these universes will come together. So this is my initial take. It was like 7.5 meters. I looked at the breakout. I'm like, okay, well, it's not 1 meter of crazy and then the rest is okay. It's like, this is truly a 7.5 meters of like, holy shit. So then I opened the press release and on CEO.CA, and I clicked on this like grainy image of the core. And I'm like, okay, I can see these veins in the core. And I'm going, okay, well, it looks like, sort of like a close to right angle, a high degree to core axis. So rather than looking at like, you're not catching it down the throat of it per se, you're like getting a good cut on things.
Which means you understand the width of it.
Yeah, which means the width is like probably the width. And so you say, okay, cool. And then ultimately 7.5 meters of Larange style gold in that region isn't going to just miraculously disappear, right? That's a pretty wide zone. That's a very wide zone in the gold world. That's extraordinarily wide, especially a high grade.
Look at what McEwen's doing. He's got Canadian Gold Corp, I think, looking for very similar things.
Right. So you get this super wide thing, bonanza grades, and yeah, I mean, you've got to pay attention. And it was 4 million pre-open yesterday market cap. It was halted, called Jordan. He's like, yep. He's like, we drilled this. Now the other, I guess, 150 meters of core above that assays aren't back on that yet. So there's still unknown intervals that may fly into the mixture on the backs of it. So anyway, it's interesting. I did some digging last night in Larange. So odd saying a French word like an Englishman, but I know that's what it is. It's like it's not Larange. It's this fucking. It's like Larange.
Rouen-Noranda is the hardest one ever.
Yeah.
Rouen.
Yeah, Rouen. Yeah, exactly. But then everybody's like Rouen, Noranda.
That was a hard one for me working at MX for all those years.
Val d'Or.
Bonjour.
Yeah.
Oui.
Anyway. Yeah. What was the fuck? Frank Holmes told me one time that I was Val d'Or, Quebec, and I need to be more Paris, France.
What is
It's like, you're really Val d'Or, Quebec. You need to be more Paris, France.
Actually, honestly, Val d'Or,
like
Quebec is beautiful.
It's like the best thing anybody's ever told me.
I'd be proud of that.
That's pretty awesome.
It's fucking spectacular. He's like, you look very Val d'Or. You need to be more Paris, France as a CEO. Anyways.
You need a t-shirt about that. Some t-shirts like Val d'Or, not Paris.
Oh, it's the best. Anyway, I digress. So it's interesting. Holy shit, it's one hole. It's one thing. End of the rope. They need money for sure. What's next? And, I was talking to Jordan. He's like, well, maybe we'll do some IP. I'm like, no, fuck. When you got the tiger by the tail like this, just pin cushion it. Just step out very modestly, if not modestly at all, and just pin cushion the snot out of it, figure out where it's going. You don't have to worry about, a lot of people are like, oh, they barely stepped out. It's like, fuck that. When you got something like that, you choke up on it, you figure out where it's going. That's it. You got the tiger by the tail.
Mm-hmm. Go nuts.
Go nuts.
Yeah.
Like
take some money if you need to and go nuts.
Yeah. And it's like,
especially after a big run up like that, they would have raised money at 5-10 cents before. You're trading at 50. Go take some flow at 70, whatever. It's not my business what they do, but I'd be taking a bit of money here and attacking.
I'd be pin cushioning that, figuring out exactly what it's doing, and then you can go step out. Then you can step out once you got an idea what the fuck it is.
But I think circling back, it's harder to tell the story, right? Like that's the one thing that you see, right? So it was a nickel story, like it was a VMS nickel search, right? Like they got the Sirius
nickel, yeah.
Like the Sirius guy is there, who's a brilliant guy, I think, and going into it and looking for comparisons to 13 million tons of 2% nickel. That was what they were looking for, right? So that
was the Rotten Stone mine, I think.
That's what. Well, exactly. that was the. I think that was the thing that they had in Sirius, in Australia. That was what they had the similarities, at least in the deck. There was like the two.
But I think they have a past producing mine on their property.
I thought they were on trend from that.
Oh, maybe
they're down trend, I think. But regardless of that, you're going after this nickel thing, and now you're going after. You hit this thing and it's complex versus, again, like if I hit 300 meters of 1.5 grams, or let's do gram meters, right? So 770, so 300 meters of 2 grams or 1.5, whatever it is. That's like, you're like, yeah, you can tell that story easier. I remember when I started my career, it's like anytime you had like that kind of a ore body, you're like, okay, I get it. Like you think that you can be really smart. You project out how many ounces. You're like, well, it's this big. It's a blob, right? So people get really, it's easy to get comfortable with it.
CJ's earlier point. So it's a matter of when you're coming in too. So on those big low grade things, look at the snowline chart, for example. You have time. You can see, okay, are they going to hit again? Are they going to hit again? Those high grade suckers, they rip.
But rip, baby.
But this is
people get
guys. And this is a bona fide discovery.
Guys, this is a $15 million market cap. There is no rip. This is
It's
not
it's
rip.
5x in the last little bit.
Yeah.
If you just look in terms of pennies and not
$15 million.
Yeah, but you're looking at institutionally. But if you look at it on a retail level and you're looking at your 5x returns, you're not looking at the overall valuation. No, if you have a portfolio of 10 grand, you're not looking to buy the company out. You're looking at how much can I gain on a month by month basis, right?
But am I not? But for sure. But am I not looking at this? This
You
is
are,
a great.
of course.
This is a
Yes.
great thing to go into. Then am I not looking at this by market cap at some point?
No, of course you are.
I am. We've debated this, but you're right, and you're right. We're all,
Yeah,
we're
all
right
right.
in what we're saying, right? There's like
Let's go,
perception and whatever. Market cap versus price. I think we've gone into this before.
We have, yeah.
But anyway, so let's park that for a second, because Kelly on the street ran into Kelly downstairs on his way up, and
I was just off a Zoom call with.
he was literally just off a Zoom call. I'm excited. I got off a call as well about it. And I go, okay. So, and I spent last night looking into the Raj. I'm like trying to understand more about the area. And to me, it was like, okay, so, and then I was talking to you, Matt. We were looking at the geology a little bit. And I was like, okay, so you've got some geophysics anomalies. I want to know how much of this how many of these intrusions do they have and what's the dimensions of them? And then I want to know what the structural setting is there. Like in X marks the spot. Like if you've got the intrusion and then you've got it cracked up and busted up by a structure, then, that's your kind of overall metal endowment, quick math. You can just do something quickly on that. And it was like, okay, well, do they have a couple kilometers of that type of environment happening? Do they have like a half a kilometer? So it checked out. We're like, okay, there's lots of structure. Yeah. These things are cut up and chopped up. Okay, got it. Good. Right? All is good in my world. I'm excited as hell. Still am.
I
right?
am too, yeah.
But then fucking in comes Kelly Malcolm from the top ropes.
PGO.
Big Daddy comes in. The big show comes in from the top ropes.
So I
drops an elbow on him,
and I looked at
right on me.
Well, the first thing I looked at was the core photos, and they have really nice high resolution core photos in the.
So can we pull these up? If you look up, can you open up the press release by chance and share it?
This is like real time going through a story as they've discovered something.
Okay, so this is like Kelly just like broke my internet.
No, I didn't. But so we went through it together with the guys. So what was really interesting, that the geos that we're working on it are copper nickel guys. So they were looking for ultramafic, highly sulfidized mineralization.
Yeah, they're looking for like magmatic sulfides and
like
ultramafic
Sudbury
rocks.
simple stuff. Not simple, of course, but easily visual things. So I looked at this and I was like, where's the gold? Because it's not a visual system in the slightest. Looks like a gabbro granodiorite. They took 1.5 meter samples throughout the boxes. But I had a chat with the geo, smart guy, bright guy, copper nickel guy, and he looked at this and he's like, oh gosh. So they took these larger samples throughout. So there's huge potential here that's untested, untapped, really unlooked for, because it looked like sort of blah core at the time, right? So definitely, it's interesting that, because this didn't respond to the geophysics. So they had the copper nickel target at the top, and they had what they thought was another limb of that ultramafic body wrapping around. So the IP showed target here, and this stuff in the middle of it. So they were drilling to the second target to get to this one, which is what the previous press release kind of discussed, which was they presented photos of the peroxenites that they drilled.
Yeah, but that's not what mangled me, right? So I got it. They were looking for magmatic sulfides and they were exploring a different type of system, and they stumbled into this. That's actually exciting to me. I'm like, okay, cool, right? But I pulled up this picture on my phone, not the high res, not the high res version. And this is how subtle this can be. So not the high res version. And I'm going, yeah, okay. So quickly I look at this and I go, I see a bunch of veins, right? Looks like there's one up in the top left. Looks like, so I see veins and I go, okay, it's just a bunch of veined, tombstone, right? Mm-hmm. And, okay, they're
like Snowline, Victoria Gold.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, cool. And but then Kelly's like, no, dude, did you not look at the high resolution? And it opens it up. And it's like everything I thought was a vein's not a fucking vein. Pretty much.
It's intrusive on intrusive.
So like if you zoom in,
what it could be,
these aren't
like,
really
though,
veins, man.
It's kind of like, so if you're in a magmatic, so this is what I was thinking about after even we had our chat. So one of the thoughts that it could be is, so you're in a magmatic system, you could have an intrusion related gold system being superimposed. So if you look at Cote Lake, for example,
yeah,
it's actually quite similar to that. It's an intrusion related system where you have micro pulses of gold being injected into that boring. You've been to Cote before?
I've been to Shining Tree, not necessarily Cote.
Okay, so well, Shining Tree, they're different. So,
yeah.
So you have your nickel deposits around there too, but then you've got in the Shining Tree belt, you've got beautiful high grade 2, 3, 4 meter veins, right? And then at Cote proper, so there's two. There's the candy stripe one, which is called, what's the one that they're building now? The second one they found, whatever, the newest one that they've identified, which is an analog to Cote. But the real Cote Lake, it's the most boring looking thing I've ever seen, but it does have more hydrothermal alteration present than what I saw there. So
yeah, but those look like nice. That looks like nice.
It looks like a nice, yeah.
It looks like nice. It doesn't look like, I thought it was veins.
The pink. It just
okay.
Looks
So
like
oddly
granitic.
enough, so I was in Norway. It's not the first time I've seen gold in this type of shit, but when I was in Norway, I remember drilling a bunch of stuff, and I was working in nickel, right? And there's like all these like tunnelite sequences.
Was that you and Christina?
Christina was there too, yeah. And I was logging this stuff, and I was a rookie because I had come from the Abitibi in gold exploration. So now I'm in Norway looking for nickel. So I'm totally out of my, dictionary of what things actually are.
Cabra, Noradana,
and I'm logging, and I'm like vein, and I log all this core. I spent like 2 days logging core, and my boss at the
Probably
time,
proud of yourself.
Oh
too.
yeah, my boss is like, oh, you're really making quick work of that core. I'm going, oh yeah, I'm fucking tuning it up like rat shit. This stuff, it's easy. And then he comes in, he goes, I'm looking at your logs, man. You got veins everywhere in there. And I come in, and he comes in, he's like, that's not veins, man. He's like, these are nices.
They're just it's nice
like
bending.
Yeah. And I was like, oh shit. So I had to relog it all. Turns out it was a lot more boring of a log, but it was way easier to log than like calling everything a thing. So anyway, that when you pointed that out, I was like, shit. So then I got thinking about one time at Extra Gold, we drilled this hole, and it was crazy. And then we sent in the assays, and then the assays came back, and they were insane. And it was from the Zabika deposit, from Newmont's Zabika deposit. The lab fucked up, and they gave us the wrong results. So I'm looking at this now going, I sure hope this is real.
Oh, wow. Really?
It's in the, no.
Yeah, man.
I wouldn't go
like,
that
I'm
far.
not saying it's not. I don't want to give anybody that impression.
Neither do I.
But
that's the rock. You're just like, this is.
But this rock doesn't look like anything.
So to support the fact that this is here, if you look at the press release prior, the one before, they have 5 gram per ton grab samples in boring ass looking biotite rocks.
There you go. Okay.
And then there's a 5 gram, a 2 gram. But immediately when I looked at that, just like I said, I was like, oh gosh.
Yeah.
But there is support, and you can see that on the press release prior.
And in fairness, the first actually comp that I had thought of is if you kind of like gander over to you're not really that close, but sort of similar rocks. Like if you go over to Flin Flon and Snow Lake, one of those two, I don't remember which one, but one of them is very gold rich. One of them has 0 gold. And one of them has tons of gold, and like those crazy discoveries that were really deep down and like built Hud Bay. The rock that you're looking at for gold is between the sulfide like lenses. It's not actually in the sulfides. Like so for example, T2, so Mark Saxon and T2 Metals, they drilled 25 meters of 8 grams and 1.5% copper, and all you could see is a little bit of galena. And you actually can't see anything. It's really, really boring rock, and it was 20 meters below surface. That's a great news story.
Particularly boring rock.
Rolling rock. Right? The one in Manitoba.
Yeah, that one.
You're
Is that rolling rock?
You're kind of on a delay. Matt's video's on a delay, but we can hear you.
Yeah, Mega Precious had that. Mega Precious had that, and then it was full of tungsten. They had to do like with the scheelite and stuff, or like I think it was like scheelite or willastonite. There was one of the, and then you had to use the ultraviolet light to see it. And then they had like they only discovered this like way deep into the project, like years deep into the project. Not that it ended up being a transformative benefit. Matt would shit on that probably to the extent that, oh, Matty, are you still there?
I'm here.
Okay. It's just you're delayed. You're like slow-mo on the image that we're seeing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's okay.
You
Anyways.
look good though, buddy.
So, yeah, you look good, man. So yeah, they ended up using like this, the ultraviolet light, and you could see it and it lights it all up. But it was boring looking rock like that too. So even Stranger Things.
Yeah. So if it is a bona fide discovery, it's still cheap, right?
Yep.
20 million market cap. That's nothing for a high grade discovery.
Dude, 7.5 meters and 72 grams.
There was another one in Thunder Bay
super crazy
that wasn't able to follow up. Like I think it was Dynasty Gold. Remember that?
It's beside Dryden.
Yeah. They were never able to follow up. So I guess that tells you that there's still risk involved.
Well, Manitou Gold originally, they were what is now Dryden Gold.
Yeah.
50, the best drill hole I've ever seen in my life. 53,000 grams per ton in over 0.7 or something like that. It was the highest grade thing I've ever seen.
But the difference here is that you have multiple 1.5 meter intervals of these bonanza grades, right?
Exactly.
So with the Manitou example, that was so hard, and why everyone drilled it to follow up with 800 drill holes, which isn't to say that it's not going to work, but it was such a narrow interval of like just basically, what was it? It was 5.5% gold.
Imagine though that this is actually one of those things.
No, it
where like they come back and they're like, "Oops, we fucked up your core with like newfound gold score or something." Like
we don't wish that on
our
friend Jordan Black.
No, honestly, but if you look at so I did this homework because a lot of people are calling me to see. Everyone wants to buy it, and like just like you, everyone calls like a geo that they know to see if it looks real or not. So I did quite a bit of work, and I don't think that's the case. But when I first looked at that, I was like, that's funny. But then I did the homework and I looked at the slabs from the grab samples and I was like, okay.
Yeah, in the grab samples.
Then I was talking to the geos.
Yeah. It's wacky,
at first look, it was wacky. Yeah.
So would you double down at this level? Hypothetically,
dude, I'm such a bad investor. Don't ask me any investment advice.
This isn't investment advice.
I think at 14 million valuation,
it's definitely worth worth
absolutely,
a shot for sure.
Absolutely. Come on,
press it.
Like I know lots of guys that would like to finance them right now.
That's a real discovery, man. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think
it's a like MX. Our discovery hole was 300. I can't remember the numbers anymore. Huge, but newfound gold. I remember you guys were so excited, and you don't get those very often. Like we started hitting in the high grade zone. I remember Albert had called you and was like, "Oh, that's a skinny little noodle" at the beginning, and then I remember.
Oh, what did he say? No, he said.
Because you had Gold Spot going.
The computers.
Yeah, he said I didn't need no. He said I didn't need no stupid fucking computer to find this, and then he sent me a picture of it, and he goes, "Didn't need no stupid fucking computer for this, bro."
Yeah,
and I was like, "Nice."
That was good.
Fun because you were trading press releases for a while.
Yeah, they were like boom, boom, boom. Yeah, that was really cool. When we were both drilling off at the same time.
But NFG won.
Market cap. We'll see. We'll see who wins in the end. You never know.
Yeah, Windfall was funny. We were trading with that.
But in the end, you never know who wins.
You never know.
Yeah. Yeah, with Alex Marcotte too, with Windfall, when Windfall was going hard.
Yeah.
Oh, he was doing the same?
Yeah, we're doing that too. Yeah. It's funny.
But we need another. Discoveries are good for our sector.
They're amazing.
Yeah.
And big buyouts too. Like the GBR was so fun for a bit. And then that was now what, 2+ years ago?
Still,
yeah. Discoveries are good. I think we need more. I think the buyout segment of our space has to pick up a little bit. At least like you see the seniors playing more. Like you see Tech is 9-9 in so many different placements now, and you just don't even notice. Agnico is playing pretty hard all over the place. I think that's a good thing.
I mean, look at Pretium happened. Great Bear happened.
Pretium was a
lot of smaller
No.
consolidations as well, which are still fun.
Yeah.
Pretium was recent. It was like what, 3 years, 2 years? Pretty recent.
Yeah, in the same ilk, I think.
The Newcrest. It was before the Newmont Newcrest deal, and then they did the Pretium deal just before that. I think.
And just before that was like Nico KL, but those are
Yeah.
the big boy. Like the fun ones are like
There's been quite a bit, man.
What?
like 100 million to 200, like 100 to like a 50% takeover.
I like Calibre and Marathon. That was a cool one. That makes a ton of sense. Actually, Calibre has amazing free cash flow profile per market cap before that transaction. It's like, phew. And I feel like the Marathon is kind of the detour of that transaction.
Yeah, 100%.
We're talking about Sabina.
Yeah,
Sabina.
That was another one.
Yeah, Sabina happened.
A small one.
There's been a lot, man. The Trader Brownies is kind of picked over. There's not a lot left.
Reunion recently.
You're right. Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah,
lots. There's been lots of deals.
There's like that's what I'm saying. Like it's actually been quite a bit. There's not a whole lot of like non.
But I guess
the GBR one was the most fun one recently, where it was just huge.
Yeah. Also, Kelly, because that was fast. Like Sabina,
boom.
Sabina's been around for Sabina was around for a long time, right? Like GBR was so quick. It was like a brilliant.
5 years.
Or like Ventana, it was fast. Done. Yeah, like no resource, have to own it. Yeah. Kinross is usually there.
I guess we are seeing the consolidation, which is typically the bottom of the market. That's what everyone always says.
Well, you see even McEwen Mining bought a little project in Nevada recently, Timberline. Like tooting my own horn, but Borealis, we intend to do some consolidation as well. But again, these are going to be smaller things.
I saw Timberline. That was an interesting one that they bought that, and it feels to me like I-80's the push there. Like that would have been the I-80 acquisition next, right? Because I-80 bought Ruby Hill, Paycore, sorry, and then they had the Ruby Hill, right? If I'm not mistaken, and then that entire trend, Timberline is the next one. Down on that,
and then GLM, I think,
but it was the most like green fields of the area. Like no, so, you had
the most green fields is the what's GLM Golden Lake. So they had a huge hole. Sprott put in a bunch of money in that 3 years ago or so.
Uncle Mike deal.
Is that on the same trend?
Yes.
Yeah,
underneath Timberline.
Yeah.
Oh,
or maybe even in between. But Timberline. It's 500,000 ounces. I spoke to Rob about it too, because he's a big investor in Borealis.
They never were able to follow up that hole, that really big one.
So, like, is Rob going to do something with? Where's
Rob's going to do something with Timberline? I know that because he has gold bar or gold bar.
Yeah, gold bar's not far.
And it's just a reserve.
Okay, well then you got to expect something's happening between Rob and I-80.
I have no idea.
You got to expect that.
Like there was that. Why the fuck would you go in never talked to him about it, but I did. I-80 did put out an announcement 8 or 9 months ago now, and you can see it's all over CEO.CA chatter about this strategic partner that was going to get involved in a certain capacity, but it was never fully discussed beyond that. So there was a press release about that, about Ruby Hill in particular. So maybe something's happening there. I have no clue.
I'm going to venture a guess and say that something might happen.
So what was that one deal that had that awesome hole, Uncle Mike's deal?
GLM.
Yeah, what was that lake? Something lake.
Golden Lake Minerals.
Golden Lake.
And it was beautiful. It was like 5 or 6 grams oxide over like 30, 40 meters. Brand new discovery.
Yeah, big pop financing. I haven't heard anything.
Yeah, popped from a nickel to 60 or 80 cents.
Yeah.
Then he raised a lot. The problem with Nevada, and like now that I've been there, I thought it was the easiest place. It is a really lovely place to work. Don't get me wrong, for mining, it's great. The speed at which you can operate is pretty horrendous. You're 18 months to a drill permit when you get a target. So you can do little notices where you can get a couple holes in an area, but when you tag into something, you've got to then do. Maybe this is the way that the world's going. I don't know, but you have to do a full biological study, archaeological study before you get a drilling permit. So
Well, it used to be that BLM was faster than forestry, and then now it's all the same. Like all the restrictions that were made forestry speed, have like bled over into BLM, and arguably the forestry is a little bit more nimble because they have less inbounds. Yeah. So like, but it's still forestry. So then you're like, wow.
So Borealis is in a forest. So we're a permitted mine in the forest.
Right.
But that is rare.
A lot of the Walker Lane is in forestry.
You're right. Yeah, exactly.
Borealis is forest land?
Well, a part of it. So the permitted mine, believe it or not, is in forest land. The balance to the west is in BLM land.
Wow.
It's bizarre. But yeah, we have a fully permitted mine in the USFS.
Not a lot of trees.
There's trees there, buddy, if you go up the hills. I didn't take you high enough when you came up.
You guys were probably batting around the old sage down there.
We were playing in the sage.
We were playing in the sage. And
Matt got to see a gold pour.
Oh, did you?
I poured gold for Matt and a bunch of other people on site, which was really cool.
Did you pour it in your flip-flops with a cigarette in your mouth? Because I did that before. And I burned myself.
I heard that. I've heard a story of a guy in Nevada. I won't say what mine, but he had a gap in between his boot and his leg. Like, the big foil suits that they put on, and a blob went down.
So stupid. I never put the foil
alongside his leg.
Foil suits are for...
And it just melted like skin. Like, it sounds horrendous.
Now it's a part of him.
He's just got a golden foot now, I guess.
Like on Game of Thrones when they
foiled suits. Foiled suits are for weenies.
Yeah.
I used to do her in flip-flops.
Yeah. You're not getting the ES.
I used to do her in flip-flops. Oh, yeah.
Ghana,
Hell yeah.
Guyana?
Oh, Ghana. Hell yeah. Flip-flops.
Yeah.
Let's
Was that
go.
placer mining?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
Gold Rush, Alaska, but the real deal. Like the same idea. And then, I used to do her daily in flip-flops. And sometimes with things to drink, I was sometimes half in the bag doing it.
Just rant.
And no, it's crazy because what happens is you would think it would be like really bad. It's not that bad. It's like if you end up spilling a little bit, which is, I don't advise this because you work very hard to get all of the gold, but it's happened.
It's like bacon grease on a next level.
It's crazy. It's just like, well, not really, because it just turns into little marbles. It turns into like little tiny little beads, like
almost
like
instantly.
mercury. You know when you see like mercury fall onto like it's like little round, almost instantly. Yeah, cool. Yeah, it's crazy. If it's like splashes, like that's the only I've had ricochets, but it's more like the little hot little bead hitting you, and you're like like rather than actual direct like on you.
Yeah.
But then the idea is like you're never supposed you're not intentionally spilling any. You work so hard for all that gold. Like you're not intentionally spilling any. It's just accidents happen.
Were you guys using amalgam, like mercury amalgam at all, or not really?
I used all the things. I did mercury for a bit. I used mercury with made an amalgam, and then you have to retort.
Yeah.
So I had this fucking retort. You call it Chernobyl, and like it was all gunked up. So like the fumes was like, so you'd have the mask on.
You
and
said that
like,
people put mercury in their mouths and stuff.
Yeah, the artisanal guys would put mercury in their mouths, and then the mercury, like we had mercury. This is when I first showed up. They were using mercury, these American guys, and then I would put basically you'd mix. You had this amalgamator, and it was essentially kind of like a washing machine, like a drum, like a cement mixer.
And
it just rolls
and
around, and you put like
all the gold.
Yeah, you take like this coffee cup, like half of that full of mercury, and pour that in with all your con, and then it would just kind of go around, and then
you
grab
get this big ball at the end.
No, then you feed it on a wheel. So we had like this is so bad. Like we had to phase all this out, but you fade it on like basically a gold wheel, and it looks like a spiral, like that gets you dizzy, like one of those kind of things. And then you spoon feed it onto this wheel, and the wheel would take, and the amalgam would creep up the wheel and go through a little hole in the back, and then fall into a bucket.
Okay.
Right. And then everything that's lighter than that would fall off the wheel.
Got it.
Off the water flow off the front of the wheel. And then so you take this little bucket off the back and then put that in like essentially like a bicycle pump with cheesecloth. And then you just like pump the shit out of it, and then it would squirt all of you do it in water, so you're not getting crazy. And then it would squirt all of the excess mercury out of it,
and you just keep
then you'd have like a nice like lump of amalgam.
Cool.
And then you'd press that into like a cup with like a Bunsen burner and like a retort, so it catches the fumes, condenses the fumes, and then you'd have your mercury again.
Cool.
And mercury oxide's like real bad shit. It's like black.
It's terrible. Yeah,
it's fucking bad. So anyway, so you cook that and cook your hockey puck, and then take that, and then you'd throw that in your furnace.
And then you largely refine gold and silver for the most. Like,
yeah, so
equivalent.
In the end, that was all fucking completely useless. So I had this guy John Ray come. We got rid of those guys. It was like those like machines with like the frying pan and the bowling ball and the dominoes and it was kind of like this entire like elaborate process, which is totally unneeded.
Okay.
So then what we switched to after that was doing cleanup with like a 7-inch Nelson concentrator. So you get these like prospector size Nelson bowls, and then you'd feed that in, and you get your Nelson con and just hand pan it out, run a magnet through it with a little baggie, get all the magnetic goodies out, and then just pan it down.
Cool.
We had a little half-size Gemini table. So the first step was to feed the con from the Nelson through the Gemini, and then take the shaker table, then take the con out of that and pan it clean. And then after that was just straight into the furnace with that stuff, or right into the crucible with some borax, and away you go. One time.
And where would you store the gold? Peanut butter jars?
Dude.
That's the OG way.
Under my bed.
With a couple guns on either side, probably, too.
A machete.
Really?
A machete at like the side of my bed, and I had the gold bars under my mattress, usually, just in case. It was really stupid. Like, it's like, pick a better spot, because like now I'm directly in line.
Now you're directly in line of someone.
But so what we used to do, with it, we had this big furnace, and it was really cool. It was like an induction furnace. And you'd put the crucible in there, and away we would go. Actually, I don't know if it was induction. What the fuck? It was a furnace. It had a coil all the way around, and whatever. And you'd set digitally like your temperature, and it would just and then you grab these big giant pliers and pull everything out. I had the gloves, at least, like the barbecue gloves
and flip flops,
yeah, for sure. And then pour it into my mold, and then away you go into a big pot of water to quench it. But what happened was, when it would be done, you'd have this crucible, and we didn't have a lot of new crucibles, and they're like graphite crucibles. So I would go and they're expensive, and I would go and chisel out and clean out the crucible, which I learned later is not a thing. You're not supposed to do that. But I would like chisel out the slag almost out of the crucible, because sometimes you'd see gold in the slag, and then like hammer it down, and it's like, And one fucking time, I had a big bar in there. I had a bunch of gold in there.
You burned through the crucible.
Went right through the crucible. I went to pour, and I pulled the arm down, and it was like staring into the sun. I was like, and it was like so hot. And then as soon as I got down, it was like, I got like an electric shock from the arm. And I was like, oh, something's off. So I drop it, and then I go to do it again. I'm like, oh shit, this thing's zapping me.
Well, it was conductive with the gold?
Like,
so it was just like a big warning.
It was just like, it was electrocuting me, handling the arm that turns this thing. It was like getting shocks. So then
you spilled so much gold and gone.
So then I go get the mechanic.
Yeah.
You're not working in my plant.
And he comes out. No, I learned all the tricks. So then I get the mechanic, Tom, and he comes out, and he's like, what are you doing? I go, Tom, I know you're drunk. This is a problem.
Yeah.
Right. I go, I'm getting electrocuted by, he's like, quit being and then, so he grabs the arm, and then he's like, holy shit. Yeah. So we let the thing cool down. We open it up, and like all the gold was like melted into like the coils.
Oh no.
And mixed in with all like the copper coil and all of like, I think it's like, it's not asbestos, but it's like some kind of like fire brick that's kind of like asbestos. Might be asbestos. And it was all smashed into that. So then I took a hammer. I didn't want to get in shit, right? But I just ruined the furnace. And so then I go and I hammer all the crap, like all this asbestos brick and all this shit out of there. And I end up with this big pile of crap, like copper and gold and whatever. So I'm like, well, now what do I do? Right? So I melt it all down. Like I used a cutting torch, and I melted it down into kind of like a sheet. Right? So then I got this thing of nitric acid that's a legacy of the past, when we used to use the retort and all that.
Yeah.
Put the puck in the nitric, and it would get rid of. Anyway, so I was like, okay, well, nitric acid's good. It'll get rid of my copper. Right? So I throw that in there. It's fizzing away and bubbling away. I'm like, all right, let's go. We need to get this copper out of there. Then, because when you sold the gold, they would zap it, and you get your price based on the purity. Yeah. So, anyway, so I put it in the nitric, and like I must have missed a critical chemistry class, because we had this big thing of hydrochloric acid, and I'm like, okay, well, there's iron. I'm like, why don't we make a little cocktail, right? And then she starts really fucking going. She's bubbling like crazy, right? Like I'm like, oh, and the water starts turning, like the liquid starts turning kind of yellowish brown. I'm like, oh yeah, baby, let's fucking go. Get all that iron out of there. Get all that
asbestos out of there.
Shit out of there, right? So then I go into the kitchen. So this thing's bubbling away. I go into the kitchen real quick because we had Wi-Fi in the kitchen. I didn't have it in the cold room. So I go in there and I type in like hydrochloric acid. This is not, by the way, this isn't fucking
this is how to make a bomb 101.
No, this isn't like now where you can just like look shit up super easy, like, and everyone has Wi-Fi everywhere.
Yeah,
this is
very,
like
very challenging.
This is like
encyclopedia stuff.
Yeah, it's like you got to be standing in the right spot. It's kind of dial-up-y. Like it's not,
You also could just Google that and things aren't going to pop up.
Exactly, right? So I'm like HCl plus nitric acid, and it's like,
and the FBI shows up.
No, Aqua Regia.
Oh, so you dissolved all your gold.
And I'm like, oh, fuck. So I run back to the thing and I pull it out. And like Aqua Regia is literally like the solution that dissolves gold.
It's
like gold is like
a fire assay. You put things in Aqua Regia to get your gold out of.
It's like gold is like pretty much inert to most things except for Aqua Regia. Like that just happens to be the cocktail that you brew to fucking dissolve the gold. So now I got a mega problem. So I pull this shit out and I'm like, okay, well now I can't just pour this out because there's gold in it.
Gold. Yeah.
So I got to precipitate that. So anyway, that was a thing. It wasn't too bad, right? It didn't like eat that much of my shit. So anyway, I melt it all down. I get my cutting torch. I break it up into pieces, put it all in the mold. I use the cutting torch. I threw in some borax. I'm fucking getting a little cowboy in here now. I got a cocktail of like some shit I got to neutralize. Anyways, I end up making this bar. We get it zapped because the guy comes by to drill it and zap it. He's like, well, this is the nicest bar you guys have ever had. So we get a little extra. And it goes, and everyone's like, oh, great job in the gold room. I'm going,
thank you.
Ooh, baby.
I had to buy a new furnace the next day.
Anyway, long story. Yeah. So I've been through all the things with the furnace.
You know how there was that big heist at Pearson Airport, like $20 million worth of gold?
Yeah.
Do those gold bars like find their way down to the mines there to throw into, like to wash the gold, or like you can just wash it wherever? Because
I think they probably do it through jewelry stores and shit.
Yeah.
You just go to any
just melt it down.
Most any jeweler, if you just bring in a big
pawn shops,
they'll just melt it right away. Probably not even wanting to know where it comes from. And then just turn it in, throw some copper in there, turn it into 14 karat gold and call it a day.
Oh yeah, those pawn shops. That's all they do. Like they buy like people pawn their like 18K gold rings and bracelets and all these jewelry and stuff.
They just like we buy gold. You see that?
They literally have a furnace in the back and
they melt all that shit down.
I'm saying like if you show up with that, you just spread it all around. They're not covered by any anti-money laundering laws or anything.
They probably are,
like that,
but
right?
I did read about the follow up on that, and they had found a number of crudely melted bracelets, like really shitty, ugly chain link bracelets made of 100% like 24 karat gold.
The ones that they just bent.
I think they just literally bent up strings of gold for doing that exact same thing.
One day Kelly's going to be the guy that used to show up at PDAC that had all the chains. Remember that guy with like the Cuban link chains? He was like the Mr. Gold. Remember that guy?
I do.
The gold shirt.
It's my buddy Jason, Jason Atkinson. Yeah. He desperately wants me to buy a gold suit for PDAC and have like a metallic top to bottom gold.
They only recovered like $100,000 from that heist.
Wow. I saw the headline yesterday that I think it was the Air Canada manager or something was like he turned himself in or something like that.
Oh really? So it wasn't in the full.
There was an inside there was an inside track on it.
So
crazy.
So you're gonna be Mr. Gold now.
We'll see.
Yeah, if you need help pouring refining your gold,
I'm
bro.
Stay away from you for now. After that story.
Will you be public by PDAC?
That's the big unveil. We'll be ringing the bell.
We're nearing the finish line, guys. We're working diligently.
You'll be the first company on the new Texas Stock Exchange, because no one else will accept you.
No, we've not certainly had any. Just been a lot of stuff that's gone on, but all good. We're almost there. I'm anticipating a listing.
2 weeks.
Soon.
2 weeks.
I hope so. In that time, somewhere in that time frame.
Well, you're working really hard in the meantime. You're flying. You
We're
must have
working,
racked up like a million miles in the air now, getting the story out there.
100,000, not this year.
You're working.
70,000 for the year.
Wow.
It's going to make a big splash, man. Like when we were looking at that project, not to use this podcast as a platform to pitch the deal.
I got my first 2 minutes at the beginning.
But it was cool because when we first went through it, I remember you and I, like you showed me some of the deep drilling that was going on historically in there. Mm-hmm. And there's some crazy stuff, man.
Crazy.
Like crazy hits.
16 grams over 56 meters.
Holy shit. And it was just because it was like kind of metallurgically a bit snarly. That's it.
It's just
it wasn't open pit oxide
gold
stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah. It was like the non-oxidized version.
That's it.
You know, the sulfide version beneath. But it was like crazy grades, man. Wow.
Yeah. Is there like a cutoff that you need in a grade to make that refractory ore work in Nevada?
No, it's just $1. It's essentially a smelter. So when you look at an NSR, that's actually the value we always in the financial world we think of NSRs as a royalty, but when you're actually working in a base metal mine, for example, you attribute an NSR value to the rock, net smelter return, not necessarily net smelter royalty. So all it is about how much money it's going to take to process it. So it's just an additional cost to recover the gold.
Yeah, they just got autoclaved like a roaster and just cooks the shit out of it, and away it goes.
But Matt, the simple way to answer it. So let's say you had, he's doing the weird face thing again.
He's in slow face.
Let's say you needed a 3.5 gram deposit to go underground in a conventional mill with a CIL system. Let's imagine if you had to roast it and you had one reasonably close by, maybe that number goes to 4.5 or 5 grams. So it's like adding a trucking cost or adding any additional cost to your processing, but it's just the way of the world. But if you have good enough grade, like Denise said earlier, who cares?
Do you know that the buyouts thing is off patent now, finally?
And it's popular now.
Yeah, because it's off patent. Yeah. You can like life brand buyouts now. Anybody like that's all before.
Glencore made a really cool one.
For many years, you had to go to like the one group that had the patent to build these things, and nobody did. Yeah. And now it's off patent, so anybody can. So that's actually going to change things quite a bit because they're actually pretty cool.
We looked at it. So there's what's called Albion process, I think. It's Glencore's proprietary one. And they do a really cool thing where it's a mix of like a pressure oxidation. And for anyone listening, you're taking a sulfide and making it into an oxide. When you do that, you get rid of your sulfur and your gold becomes free is what we're looking to do. But the Albion one is a combo of bugs that eat the sulfur and poop out iron. I don't know what they poop out, maybe nothing. And then it also has a pressure component as well, so it
poop out CO2.
There you go. I think it's methane, buddy.
I don't trust Denny's chemistry.
He's carbon heavy. Yeah. Anyway,
but no, there's cool different ways to look at it.
Yeah. You ever fuck up
in my life? Lots.
Yeah, like that, like on an epic level. Like, what's your worst?
Not that bad, dude. No, I really haven't had many. I'm a pretty professional person. No, we haven't had really any no notable big ones.
No.
You
ever drop the core when you're logging it? You ever do that?
Yeah.
You put Humpty Dumpty back
together.
Not a fun
again. Story. We're gonna have people crying though.
Shit.
We've done that lots. We've drilled holes in the wrong spot, like many geos have. Spotted them in the wrong spot. All these awful things, but they're not worth a 10-minute story. Just regular day in the life of a geologist.
I don't know if mine was worth a 10-minute story.
It was perfect. I loved it.
I learned
it was a good one.
Yeah, that was a winner.
Shit. Yeah, well, where that came from. If you want fuck up stories, I've got many of them.
So what else is up, guys?
Not much. I think we're looking at. Well, there's a whole bunch of fallout. You're taking over Quentin Yari's job, which is cool.
I am. Yeah, as
chairman. I'll call back to that.
Canadian Metals. Well, that was announced 2 days ago.
Sweet. Any high grade hits in that one?
Canadian Metals.
there actually are beautiful hybrids.
Or we actually own that,
You do, and honestly, there's like sick silver hits.
Yeah.
Over like big widths.
Some that would be, one would say, maybe unbelievably good.
Was it
like too good to be true?
No,
like too good to be true type of hits?
There's
Canadian Metals. Is that BMK, the old McDonald?
No.
ones?
No.
So how many?
Kelly was involved in that too.
So he went on this one right after he left Red Pine.
Okay.
And then I just replaced him last week. He resigned and jumped in there. I'm a shareholder and
very strategic press release of we want to thank Mr. Yari for his very short or very brief tenure. There's something very, very clever in the press release to say that.
Yeah, look, I don't know. I just got asked if I would help out. I don't know much about what happened there. Anyways, the project's awesome. You guys own it, so I'm preaching to the choir. It's got potential for something big. Could be a big nice 10x if they can hit some of those holes again.
And Mogotes is finally up.
Is it public now?
Yeah, he's private.
Yeah,
It's
public.
Tuesday, I believe, right?
Yeah.
All right, Mogotes.
Yeah, it's
the old public whistle.
It's public.
Is it trading?
Yeah.
Like actually any shares trading, or is it like
a little bit?
No, it's
Maybe we can pull that up.
It's
Let's
getting
pull that up on
momentum.
CEO.CA.
By appointment.
yeah.
MOG.
Mog.
The Mogster.
Yeah,
That's reasonable
not bad.
volume for
It's
sure.
trading.
CJ's commenting in there. He's helping them out.
Yeah.
CJ. Good.
But no, that I love that story. Fingers crossed because it is so early, but it could be amazing.
It's the right real estate. There's copper. There's obviously copper. Historically, the drill
Copper on the
holes.
property. There's copper around them.
Yeah, like I mean, it's just are you gonna
A lot of
get
big
one these
footprints.
porphyries? Yeah.
Big
A lot of
footprints,
smoke,
big
a lot of
package.
smoke. Yep.
Yeah. And they got a good cash balance still. They should be out with, I think, 2,100 meters of drilling is what they'll put out. Cool. Snow came early, so everyone kind of got stuck a little bit.
It's wintertime there, yeah.
Yeah. So it's wintertime there. Yeah, and you're in the very high Andes, so snow matters a lot, right? So, but yeah, that's arguably some of the best new real estate you can find, right?
Right now, it's some of the best in the world, yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think so. I think if you're in the world of copper, it's definitely. What are your thoughts on that, Kelly? Are you excited about copper in general, or do you think that because everybody else cares about it, it's maybe not that interesting?
Honestly, I lean on people like Matt and CJ to guide me on the metals of the future. I'm into gold. That's most of my portfolio is gold focused.
Yep.
In the right market or the wrong market, it still ends up there anyways. Own a couple of good copper names, but it's all about the economy and the growth of the future. Like silver is one that I think is really interesting now as that kind of hybrid precious metal, industrial metal. That one I think probably has the most torque for the near term, I hope. Although I don't own too many silver names.
I feel weak in the knees on the copper side right now. I don't know why.
It hasn't been doing too well.
I just feel like everyone's talking about it and everyone wants it to be a thing and it's doing okay. Like the price, I don't know, man. And then the projects, like,
hard to get excited over.
Yeah. But why do we really, I mean, we do care. We do care, right? We do. But what, from the perspective of the micro cap space where we play, we like to talk about macro, but it doesn't really matter if you find a good project.
No.
Like obviously if you're playing the whole lithium space.
It does matter in terms of copper. Hercules, like that 100% mattered. That was a brand new copper hit that ripped. And they matter because they're huge buyouts. If they get to the point where you get a Rio or someone taking them out, that's a
for sure. But that's gonna but if you have a big project and a good one, you're gonna have.
It almost doesn't matter what it is.
Like it doesn't matter. It's commodity agnostic, right?
Like commodity, yes.
Yeah, you need a good project, right? So like Hercules mattered because it was 200 meters of 0.86% copper and a new discovery. So I get that in a giant area. So I just think that like we like to talk about. I think that if you're playing a market rush, so like let's look at lithium or then uranium, right? Like you have to own them all when no one's talking about them. You can't own them. You can't own copper now. Everyone's talking about it. So that's the only way, right?
Matt, go look at I don't own this, but I know a lot of people that do. QTWO. So they drilled like 100 meters of like 1.5% or something, bananas like that, lithium, which if you had drilled that, and it's trading at like, I don't know, 40, somewhere 30, 40, 50 cents. If you had drilled that a year and a half ago, that would be a $5
Huge.
stock.
Mm-hmm. So that's the only thing that is in that market, in that crazy market, then things react much better. But I think that like when you buy things, like it's almost like timing those things very hard. Is that where like that? Just it's hard when you're going in and out of the market, right?
Yeah, I guess you're definitely catching what I'm putting down. I think you're 100%. So you're I guess my comment was more geared to like buying lithium when lithium was crazy versus like, and sort of same thing with copper. But you're right, on an individual basis, on a discovery level basis, when we're talking early stage, it almost doesn't matter. Like, I think it's interesting though with the lithium comment, because man, what about Patriot?
Still holding in well.
I know, but doesn't that give you cause for concern that other like lithium explorers can just miraculously pull out like
this was one of the better ones I've seen,
or hundreds of meters of like a percent and a half, or like a percent and a half? Like, is that now so rare? Is it honestly, really that rare?
It is rare, because I there was probably during the boom, which would have been 2 summers ago, I think that's when it was.
It was a very short boom.
Very short, but
and most of them were grifters.
100. Well, there were a lot of
that weren't drilling anything
up there. They were just banging on rocks. Yeah,
it was like the Newfoundland boom. And a lot of guys ask me that all the time. They're like, "How come there was no other discoveries made in the Newfoundland boom?" It's like, because none of them did anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like 80% of them did zero work. They just
didn't have any cash, or drilled a couple holes, and that was the end of it.
But they got some cash. They just didn't do. A lot of them didn't even drill. Like they did a couple little ones, and that's it. But
it's also hard to drill in James Bay, Quebec versus Newfoundland, which is relatively simple. James Bay, you're helicoptering in. You really got to go for it.
A lot of these things were just pegmatite. They're like, oh, we got pegmatite, and we got all this ground with a lot of pegmatite, and there's spodumene. And like, did they ever really drill? Did they ever really do?
No one really had spodumene. That was the big thing. Everyone had pegmatites.
Pegmatites, yeah. Pegmatites are a dime a dozen. My cottage, I can come up to the cottage, have a beer, and we'll look at 15 on the front deck.
We have so many on the Copper Road project we just got. There's pegmatites everywhere. It's part of the fluid flow. It's everywhere.
Yeah, no, for sure.
There's a pegmatite in that ramp picture we looked at earlier.
Yeah,
the top left of the corner was a
little pegmatite. Yeah,
pegmatite. Yeah.
But Denny, to your point on like, does it give you cause for concern? I think Patriot's so unique because the strike of Patriot, it's like one single pegmatite that's like so 4 kilometers. It's like unheard of. Whereas generally, though, if you're in hard rock, it's an industrial metal, so you're dealing with I need near surface.
But it's it's under a lake in the middle of nowhere. It's still in the middle of nowhere, and it's under a lake. If like you're finding a 1.5% pegmatite by the side of a road in like another country, like, and now they're starting to come out. They're like, oh, like Kelly just said, there's a company the other day. Like, I don't know where it is, but
it's around there.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. So like, but there's other things that have like, 50, they're starting to crank out some pegmatite.
Just wait. Yeah. Just wait. Our
South Africa, like
moonbound baby. It's going to come out with some baby. It's going to come out with some big things.
Well, there you go.
That's literally side of the road in a mining area. That's why we care about it for that reason, because it's like you're making a quarry. It's like marble mining. Right, you're just blasting it and pulling it out in a simple process. So,
is that where this whole lithium thing goes, though? Like, does that get built before Patriot?
So one of the ones that's interesting, and I own a fair bit, is the Nipigon area as well.
Yeah,
because you're right by the deep ports. You have access. The pegmatites aren't as big at all as the huge James Bay monsters, but your capex is literally a fraction. So there's a lot of interest from overseas in that area of the world, because it's not going to take you. Well, I don't know what Patriot would be to build, 5-6 billion.
Long time, a lot.
I don't know what the number would be.
Well, it's like if I gave you. Okay, so here's Patriot in my view. This would be a quick parallel. You're in the center of Nunavut, right? And you drilled 400 meters. No. 200 meters of 76% iron. Does that matter?
Isn't that Baffinland?
Yeah.
Probably.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
In the center, like
My
like
sister worked
landlocked,
It's
like
landlocked.
Or look at Hackett River, Sabina.
Okay, so
Hackett
like
River.
Northwest Territories, right beside Sabina, you find, a 4 kilometer long by 2 kilometer wide
Of perfect iron ore.
of like 70% iron.
I think it matters.
Yeah, it would matter.
Is that?
I'd be very happy if I found that. I don't know that I would. That wouldn't be my target. I don't.
But
think.
it's fucking iron. You got to move. You got to get that on
Get
the
the trains
rail.
in there, baby.
You got to get that into like ships and in a rail. Like you got to get that to a market. Like
yeah, I guess it would depend on how big it is, right? Because that was the whole thing when the Quebec iron market went crazy, right? With Champion and what was the first one, Barty's thing, Consolidated Iron, right? Consolidated Thompson. Like those were huge infrastructure projects.
Yeah, but there's a frothy market for every kind of project. I mean, that was like those are all like frothy. Iron ore was crazy. Champion and what was that other one?
No, they were like 2 billion tons, 30%, right? Like it was they were huge projects.
Fan Camp and fucking Champion and all that shit. And it was like this frothy, iron ore crazy. And then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, unless it's beside infrastructure, unless it's like, well, who cares? Somewhere else in the world it is. And let's just get that at 40% or 50%.
But I think any industrial
Patriot
metal
is that it's that special of a deposit. I think that it matters anyways.
It's that crazy.
It's literally a world-renowned, genuinely a world-class asset. In terms of so speaking of Snowline, for example, in terms of continuity and just simplicity of body, minus the lake and the middle of nowhere thing.
Yeah,
but honestly, it's a truly amazing. So if you look at Alchem, which is one of the biggest lithium producers in the world, they have the James Bay project, which was Palmatisics at one point, and that's just on the western side of James Bay, Quebec, or the western side, near the town of Eastmain. That's also a big pegmatite or big lithium deposit, but it's stacked lenses of pegmatites over this big width. Patriot is one
which
thing.
Kelly is usually the
it's
case.
More like
right?
Sigma. It's more like Sigma, I guess, in Brazil.
Huge.
Like that Sigma.
One big beautiful body.
Big blob of like 4%.
And that's why Sigma matters. So like they just work. It's just like an easy to mine body of rock.
Yeah, but it's also Brazil.
Yeah, I would take James.
I would take Brazil over James Bay. I think, maybe.
I don't know.
Actually, I don't know.
They're actually Belo Horizonte where they are. It's a nice place. I think that's a favorable area to work.
I don't know. I'm still suspect. I think there's still more.
No perfect deposit.
Yeah, I don't know. It's gold is easier for me. Like somebody hit 7.5 meters. Is
you know exactly what it means.
2 grams. It's like okay, that I know how rare that is, right? So.
Oh, me too. I get people presenting me scandium projects and stuff. I'm like, well, honestly, man,
I don't know how rare plentiful this is.
I don't know I don't know what a good titanium grade is. I don't know what a good tungsten grade is.
Right.
I have to do a gold equivalent in my head to get to the actual value. Not in my head, on the computer in that case. Anyways, gold's the king.
Yeah, gold.
Make gold great again.
Make gold great again is right.
Where can I get one of those?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely, brother.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anything else? Any other topics of discussion? Maddie, Siege, got any fodder for the?
No, I think that was a good one. Non-stop action on that. Go, Jordan Black.
Go Jordan Black. Yeah,
Jordan Black.
Congratulations.
We're all rooting for
what
you.
A discovery. We're really rooting for you.
Huge hit.
And I hope that nobody thinks that this is like, I tried to shit on it.
No.
With like the
we
fact that it's boring looking rock.
Discussion.
It's just boring looking rock. That's all. It's surprising. It doesn't mean it's not amazing. The fact that it's surprising is even cooler.
Yeah.
To me.
I agree.
So anyway.
Well, one more quick thing about that. So I will give an analogy. I meant to do that on the ramp. So Amex, when we made the high grade zone discovery, we truly were not expecting to hit that style of mineralization, nor even in that location. We drilled through the high grade zone to drill our IP anomaly, which is a big low grade body of ore. So that's what got me so excited about it. Kind of the fluky hit was really fun. Anyways.
Well, I mean, park your PGO at the door, buddy, because
excuse me,
Denny.
buddy. Mr. Low Grade Picture
in Newfoundland, I knew exactly what we were drilling and got exactly the result I expected. And
that was a twin.
It was all mapped out from the beginning.
Obviously we hit a big body of gold. So there's high grade zone and Denise zone. So we drilled the Denise target, but the actual high grade shoot that everyone got excited about, which I think is really my favorite part of the project, was literally no geophysical signature, no geochemical signature, no real alteration signatures, just boop, lucky us.
You know what I like about it too is that, you know, we worked with Jordan for a few years. Jordan is a hustler.
We're
Jordan,
here or with New
yeah,
okay.
no, Gold Spot,
Cool.
yeah, early, and also in 3D's office, because Jordan was doing some like crypto deals and blockchain stuff, and like, you know what, he's a hustler, man. He's an entrepreneur. He tries, he's working hard. He's always creative. He always wants to find a new, he's always thinking about new ideas. He's always trying to get something going. He's a prolific networker. He's got the gift of gab. He's, you know, a good guy like that. And Jordan, you know, I was sort of saying this the other day in the lunchroom too, or yesterday in the lunchroom. And it was like, you know, sometimes the universe delivers with people that just, you know, they have that hustle, and then it's like, boom, here's a surprise that, you know, and I feel like it's perfect. It's like karma. It's like good karma in a way. It's like the guy's constantly going, he's working, he's putting himself out there, he's trying different things. And then, yes, boom, this happens. And I think there's no sweeter discoveries than that. And the fact that you're looking for something else and then you bump into this, it's like amazing.
And especially in a brand new listing, tight strike. It's got a lot of things going for it.
100%, man. And, you know,
like another couple holes in there. Ooh.
I don't know what that is. If it's like manifestation, if it's whatever you want to call that. I don't want to get all yogi on you. But at the end of the day, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Right. And I couldn't be happier. It couldn't have happened to a hardworking guy, and a guy that, you know, really, really puts himself out there to try to do something great. And it's a great success. You know, success finds those people. I think those things finds those people.
Go Jordan. Go ramp.
Yep.
See what happens.
So there you go. Let's go ramp it up.
Ramp it up. Okay.
All right. Thank you guys. Have a good day.
With you.
Bye.
Cheers.